welcome back to episode 2 of the Iron Will Collective podcast. My name is Jonathan, and I am joined once again by the fantastic Elliot Bartley.
I would like to start by apologizing for how awful of a public speaker that I am. I guess if you could even call this public speaking. But I promise to improve in this episode right here.
Man, you doing all right.
I don't know. I'm going to try harder.
Hey, that never hurt anybody. Well, man, it's been really nice hearing back from everybody who got a chance to check out episode 1 of the podcast. And so today we kind of wanted to build off of that first episode. And we had briefly mentioned the topic of the 3 pillars of health, which the 3 pillars of health, for those of you who do not know or do not remember, are nutrition, exercise, and sleep. So those are the 3 most important things when it comes to achieving any type of health or wellness related type of goal, fitness related type of goal. Without those 3 things in balance with each other, you're really not going to be getting anywhere. So that's why we thought it'd be important to kind of introduce the topics and get into detail with all 3 of them.
So important so that we decided to make that the topic of our first real, non-introductory episode here today. Well,
I feel like we're still due for an introduction.
I guess, how was your new year?
It was freaking awesome. We joined you actually and Jesselyn for the new year, and we did a crap load of sun salutations.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. That was tough and took a long time. Took over 2 hours, but in the end, you feel a great sense of accomplishment, and you look forward to maybe doing it again next year.
Dude, that was the first time I ever did 2.5 hours of yoga. I feel like I reached a milestone in life.
Yeah, same here. We'll say that we do practice yoga occasionally. We're not very consistent about it, not as consistent as it would take to get really good at it. But the cool thing about yoga is that anybody can jump right in and get started because it's really self-paced.
Yeah, I think it has that cool quality of being scalable. So wherever you are in your own personal fitness level, you can, modify and get it done. I always found that yoga is more about like the meditative aspect. For me, it chills me the hell out because it's challenging. I prefer yoga where the poses are difficult and you kind of just have to like be forced to focus and still your brain and your body both at the same time just by focus and breath.
Definitely. But the 108 sun salutations was a different beast. It became a very mechanical movement. But because of that, I allowed myself to use it as a time to really think and focus on what I want out of my life. And you can make it, short and simple with the mantras that you use. But I use it basically as a time of meditation to focus on my goals. You see it, you believe it.
Definitely. And I hope everybody else out there had really, really awesome New Year's days or nights.
I hope you drank. I hope you smoked cigarettes. I hope you ate terribly because it's the new year. You can't do that anymore. You know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, you know who you are out there.
John.
You're right. I told my grandma that I was going to go and buy a couple bottles of vodka and whiskey, and she's like, no, don't do that.
She knows you're a tequila guy.
Well, yeah, that's right. That was the first cause for alarm. But she was like, don't do that. And I said, okay, don't worry, Nana. I'm not going to drink it. I'm just going to go pass it out to the hobos.
Hey, that's humanitarian work right there. Honestly, most hobos would probably be ecstatic with a gift like that. Well, most people, and you go anywhere really, you be handing out vodka shots. I'm pretty sure anyone's going to take them and really like you for it.
That's true. It's like I once saw a guy chugging Listerine. I don't know.
Do what you got to do.
Well, yeah, that's right, man.
All jokes aside, addiction can take you down some dark roads, and I would never recommend it to anybody unless you have more than enough money to support said addiction and the ability to keep going to work every day and working effectively while addicted. If you can do that, go for it.
Yeah, and also like don't hurt other people, man, because like that's not cool, man.
It's really not. I've been hurt before, and I can tell you one thing. It stings.
What? Who hurt you?
Life
Nah.
itself. No, I'm just kidding. I'm pretty fortunate to be on the, I don't want to say the other end of hurting. But I don't do that either. All right, let's move on.
All right. Well, without further ado, we shall let's get into the topic of the day. So we kind of briefly talked about this, you and I, earlier. We were just going over this outline. So I have an outline here. I'm just going to be reading some points off of it to help guide us along, and hopefully these points will spark conversations, and we'll see where that takes us.
I plan to be completely silent. You're only going to hear John for this episode. I'm going to unplug my mic in 3 seconds.
You can't do that, man, because I was planning on just breathing heavily into the microphone.
We just got up on iTunes yesterday, and we're going to be coming with some high quality content here, as you can see. Anyway, let's get into it. Pillars, not just for Romans, they are for everyone. What's the first pillar that we're going to talk about today?
Well, these are in no particular order. So let's go ahead and start with nutrition.
Why are these in no particular order, though?
Well, that's actually a great question. So they're in no particular order because neither of them are more important than the other. They all go hand in hand. So without each one of them being in balance, you're really not going to get anywhere when it comes to your health, wellness, or fitness goals.
If you had to choose one pillar to ignore, what would you choose? If you could do two to the fullest extent of your ability, but you're not allowed to do the other, what are you picking?
Man, well, okay. If I only had to choose two, gun to my head, it'd be nutrition and sleep. I'd leave exercise out.
That is the answer that I was looking for. You didn't take the wise guy route. Though I know that it probably would be difficult for you to live without lifting.
Yeah. Well, it's doable. It's doable for sure.
Well, let's talk about the effects that you might receive if you were to have a great sleep schedule, at least 8 hours a night, and your nutrition was absolutely on point. Like, you may not be working out, you may not be eating for performance, but you are eating like a healthy human being, very well-rounded diet. What would the outcome be?
I think all in all, you might deal with some issues of like muscular weakness and
Maybe postural.
yeah, mostly postural imbalance. That's usually what happens when people have weak muscles or underactive muscles. And also, depending on what you do for a living, you might have really tight muscles, which would be considered overactive.
Let's talk about the upper cross syndrome. I was stumped on this question during a job interview, and it hurts not to be chosen, but you take those experiences and you learn from them. So John, what's upper cross syndrome? So just in case anybody is ever asked at a job interview, they'll know and they can answer.
Well, okay, so upper cross syndrome is really just trainer speak for what the layman would probably call a hunchback. It's characterized by the way it looks, so you can oftentimes tell if someone has upper cross syndrome just by looking at them. Think shoulders rounded forward, head protruding forward, so like kind of like a posture if you were sitting down on your chair at the computer all day. And typically they have underactive glutes, maybe really tight hamstrings, very underactive abs, and tight hips. So all of that kind of pulls you into this wonky posture where you might have upper back pain, lower back pain, headaches, and because the way your body is kind of just stuck in that position, makes it really difficult to do even normal everyday things, especially certain lifts in the gym.
Like the Turkish get up.
Yeah, and the Turkish get down.
Very, very difficult. Well, that was a great explanation. Thank you. I promise I'll remember this time. You know, John did tell me what that was at one point before, but I just didn't remember. So, everybody, if you take one thing from this podcast, write everything that John just said. Write it down in your diary.
I'm still writing it down. Hold on. Okay, so nutrition. Well, I wanted to start on nutrition because I think it's one of the things that each of us has to face every single day if you exercise or not. So
I place a lot of importance on nutrition education in myself simply because you're not taught this information involuntarily in our society for some reason. It's super, super important though. You'd think this would be some day one stuff that you're taught in school, but unfortunately it is just not part of the curriculum unless you choose it on your own accord, which if you're anything like me, I didn't even think anything about it until I was pretty well into adulthood, setting me back for a pretty tough start. But it's never too late to start. So I think it is in everyone's best interest to pay close attention to, and I guess again, none of these pillars are ranked, but they're all very important, and you can tell by the way I'm stressing that right now. So what would be, for someone who really knows nothing about nutrition, doesn't know what macronutrients are, doesn't really understand calorie counting, anything like that, what would you recommend to be a first step in beginning to open their mind to the science of nutrition and what is really required in a healthy diet? Where to start?
Man, you could start in a number of places, and a lot would argue for, I don't know, starting at client education as opposed to client mindset. So that would be like saying, well, no, somebody needs to learn what a carbohydrate is and be able to determine a good source from a not so good source. Whereas somebody else might say, we need to make sure this person has a healthy relationship with food before we start teaching them what food is. And so what I like to focus on personally is kind of an even split. I think that the more detailed stuff like the science and all the workings behind nutrition, that comes in time, especially if the interest is there. A lot of people simply aren't interested in it because they have a lot of things going on already. So what I really want to do is start with the mindset stuff, and then from there kind of branch out and get further into the sciencey stuff. So my first point here for nutrition is know that everyone, and that's everyone, has to work at it. So what I mean by that is whether you're somebody who's very experienced and you're working towards a very specific goal, nutritionally speaking, or if you're somebody who is just starting out and you really don't know what you're doing, you're going to have to work hard at it. It's not a walk in the park, and it's not entirely intuitive at all times, just because, you know, at whatever point you are in your life, you're probably undoing a number of years worth of bad habits. And so it just takes patience, and it takes an understanding and knowing that if it feels difficult, it's because it is, but that's also normal, and it's no reason to stop, and it's no reason to get discouraged.
I think the most difficult part about it is that it's a daily battle multiple times per day. Whereas with exercise, yes, there is a lot to learn, endless amounts to learn, but you're only in the gym for an hour a day. Eating and nutrition, that is going to take up quite a bit of time within the length of time that you're awake and not partaking in the third pillar of sleep. So that, in my opinion, is what makes it difficult, is that consistency comes at a far higher frequency, because there's, you know, how many times you get hungry in the day? Probably at least 3, like most people are conditioned to eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, compared to 1 time in the gym per day. You know, you have to go to the gym once. It's not like you can eat one healthy meal for breakfast and then blow it off for lunch and dinner and go get that T-bell or something. It's the time involved and the frequency make it difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go over it first, because like we keep saying, no pillar is more important than the other, but this one's definitely pretty dang important.
I forgot, man. You got to learn how to cook too. You don't have to. If you have money for a personal chef, or you have money to eat out at very high quality places every single day for every single meal, you should probably learn how to cook, because that is the best way to, in the most of your control, or in the most of your ability, control the ingredients that go into the food. Yeah, you might not really know what that ground beef has gone through in its life, but up to that point, you can't really control it, but you can pick what you grab off the shelf.
You know, I heard a rumor that Elliot once beat Bobby Flay at a burger cook-off.
It was not Bobby Flay, it was Guy Fieri.
Oh, good old guy.
Yeah, it was the G. Hughes annual cook-off. G. Hughes award-winning barbecue sauce. If you haven't heard about it, there is no award. There is no competition at all.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
G. Hughes.
Good stuff.
Man. So you took him to Flavor Town, huh?
I did. G. Hughes is actually the food pyramid. It is the entire thing.
I mean, if I ever got to a point where I was eating barbecue sauce for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I think I'd finally like climb to the peak and just shout, "I've made it."
You can't really eat it. You got to drink it. You could eat the barbecue sauce if you froze it.
Well, that sounds nasty. That sounds like a slushy made of barbecue sauce. That's you're a redneck.
All right, can we stop talking about this? You're making me hungry / thirsty.
All right, well,
give me a faker laugh, why don't you?
What can I say, man? I mean, thanks to our studio audience.
There is no. All right,
they're sleeping.
So, moving on to touch on a couple more points about nutrition. Again, we're spending a lot of time on this, but it's very, 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 very important. John?
Yeah, pretty important. Well, here's the next tip, and I like this one a lot. So here, check it out. Focus on what you can do right now. Start wherever you are, use whatever you have, and do whatever you can. So kind of just backtrack a little bit. Focus on what you can do right now. I like that because a lot of people, and myself included, have been in the past fooled into thinking that you have to go through this like mental checklist of things to do before you can get started on a big project, because it just doesn't feel like it's the right time. Maybe you need to study more, or maybe you need to sort your schedule out a little bit better. And, you know, I realize, and hopefully you'll have the realization too, that if you stick to that way of thinking, you might actually end up stalling yourself more than anything and not even getting around to accomplishing that goal that you had.
Touching on what you said in the previous episode as well, was that it is in your best interest to take goals small steps at a time on your way to achieving them. Don't bite off more than you can chew, because that can be a ticket to failure right there. Is if you're going all or nothing, it can be discouraging to get setbacks. But if you're taking it one step at a time, that greatly decreases the risk of that happening.
Yeah, man. And, you know, I kind of wanted to add to that, and it reminds me of this one quote that I heard. It's a Tony Robbins quote, I think, and I bring it up. So if you know me, you've probably heard me mention this before, but it's pretty punk rock in nature. So it goes, there's never an issue of a lack of resources. It's always a lack of resourcefulness. So to translate or put it differently, it really just means that if you want to get something done, but you don't have the resources necessary to get it done easily or most simply, then you just need to get a little creative. You need to get crafty. And so sometimes you make things, or you I don't know, draw up deals. But the point is, there are alternative routes, and it really just takes a tenacity. And so when it comes to a diet, that can be seen as like a really big change. It really, I mean, to be honest, it's a lifestyle change, and that's not something that you can just shrug off. Like, that is a big deal, but it's totally worth it. And so with that, it's worth the tenacity that it's going to require. So just keep pushing, keep going.
You should never doubt that you can accomplish this feat, or any feat really. You don't be afraid of failing, because if you want it bad enough, if this is a change that you truly do want to make, you will make it happen.
Yeah. It's just like,
take it slow.
It's just like when I wanted to change my hair that one time. So I gave myself a haircut, and it was a bad haircut.
Well, I was listening to good old David Goggins, and he was talking about how when he was a teenager, he cut the old man haircut. And I was like, God damn it, I did that too. And he's all saying, he's like, I hated myself. I was like, why did I do that? Just be a clown for other people? And I was like, God damn it. I was like, shit. And completely called out.
Wow.
It's okay though. It was funny.
So you actually gave yourself the old man haircut? Like,
I did it on multiple occasions. Yes, I remember I did it one time just because I used to cut my hair too, just buzz cut, pretty easy to do. But it'd be funny to give yourself funny haircuts, But there's only so many haircuts that I could do, and male pattern baldness just happened to be the funniest one. So I did it one time, just snapped a picture for giggles. And then I did it another time, and this is when I worked at a restaurant. In the kitchen, you had to wear some sort of hat or something to keep your hair out of the food. So I had a hat, but I had shaved my head under it, so I'd pull off the hat and surprise people with a cool haircut. And turns out I hated myself. That's why I did that.
Man, well, at least you had a smile on your face. That sounds funny as hell, man. Clowning. All right, well, that actually ties in perfectly to the next one, I think. So this is the last pointer here on nutrition. So it goes, picture the health role model you want for your kids. Now be that. And the cool thing about this one is I chose it. I don't have any kids. I'm a dog dad, if anything. So I have 3 dogs. They are rambunctious, and they require a lot of attention. You can't leave these guys unattended.
They'll bite you if you leave them alone too long.
They bite butts. Actually, one of them aims for nipples. It's really weird. He always knows exactly where to go.
Sounds sensual.
Yeah, it would be if he didn't have like razor sharp teeth and he weighed a whole bunch of pounds.
And smells like a dog.
And smells like dog.
And is a dog.
Well, I love my dogs. So that's kind of the closest I've gotten to being a dad. But I do want to have kids in the future. So that's like one thing that I've considered. And with that is, I think it's really important to lead by example and be the role model that you want your kids or even the people around you to have. So it's like really hard to get somebody to change by convincing them using your words. You can give them all these features and benefits and reasons why they should change or why they should do something.
There's this saying, something speaks louder than words. What is?
Oh, something
I think it's tears.
Fears.
I don't know. But actions speak louder than words.
They do.
And if you can yourself make a change, those around you will probably notice. And if they have similar goals, they might, take a note from what you're doing. And it feels good to help friends and people of the community. If you're the only one who is killing it, then it's just not fair. Share the knowledge. Knowledge is powder.
So, first and foremost, you would be the one to reap those sweet, sweet benefits from whatever positive change you've put into your life. And then after that, of course, that's when it starts to like trickle on down to those who are around you. So if you are a parent, maybe your kids will take notice and they will start to look up to you as a positive role model. Or if you have some buddies or coworkers, even family members, it happens all the time. Like when I started working out, that had a huge impact on all the people who were living inside my house. And we started kind of operating as a team.
Passing the needle around.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody was on the testosterone in the house.
Straight to the jugular. So straight to the jugular went all that teamwork, that positivity, and we all kind of adopted this mindset, which is lead by example. That's the best way to get people to change. So if you want them to act differently, and to be honest, to be upfront, I would love for everybody listening to act differently if it meant greater health for you, if it meant making positive changes and habits so that you could live a longer, happier, and more fulfilling type of lifestyle, then I would say, heck yeah, I want you to make that change. So the best way of doing it is for me to actually act out all this stuff that I'm saying right now.
Exactly. I know in your household, you have worked wonders on helping your girlfriend and housemates to adopt better, healthier lifestyle traits, which is very impressive. And I, in my own experience, have seen it influence people around me. And I'm happy for that because it's influencing them in the right direction, I feel. There is no right and wrong in life, but at very least, everyone should want to be strong and feel good and live a long and fruitful life and not a painful, miserable one.
Right. Quality of life too, peeps. I mean, sure, you can take a prescription and it might help with, your ailment, and that's cool, except for that prescription comes with these side effects that might be kind of hindering your health or your happiness or fulfillment in some other way. So I think a really good approach is to be holistic with the way you live your life. And that word itself, for some people, can kind of carry some negative connotations, but I think that if you just take it at face value, holistic really means just approaching your life from all angles, because you can't like shy away from one thing. There's no ducking it. It's life. Like if you decide to neglect your nutrition, but you work out a lot,
watch what happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to catch up to you whether you like it or not, because these things aren't directed by willpower. It's guided by biology, and biology doesn't give two craps what your opinion on it is. So whether you're eating the right stuff or bad stuff, exercising or not, or sleeping or not, like it's going to catch up to you in one way or another.
Biology is so insensitive. That shit is not going to fly in 2020. It is going to care about our needs and our wants, not just what science says.
I'm surprised that it's
Bernie
still around.
Sanders 2027.
Let's bring the sensitivity back to biology, people.
You know what puts me to sleep is politics. Let's talk about sleep.
That's perfect. All right. So I've got 3 points here for sleep, and I'm going to go over the first one. It's written out kind of like a sentence. So here, check this out. Sleep has a direct impact on your mental, emotional, and physical performance. That one is a given. We know that. That's obvious, but we'll get into more detail in just a second. So secondly, lack of sleep can lead to so many health issues, such as depression, obesity, and immune deficiencies. So
who feels good off of a terrible night's sleep or no night's sleep? Who feels good going to work that next day, just like ready to gun it? I know I don't. I am definitely the kind of person who feels it when I get less than like 7 hours of sleep.
Definitely. So
That's a lot of sleep.
Yeah. Less than 7. Man, even 7 is a lot. So I average about 6 hours of sleep, and I think I'm like a little more tightly wound when it comes to sleep. I have a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. So a very light sleeper. I wake up usually at around 6 hours, regardless of what time I've gone to bed, and I'm like ready to go.
Well, that's your problem. You're a light sleeper. You're supposed to sleep in the dark.
Dude, no one ever told me that.
Well, you learn something new every day.
And you forget something at the same time.
Exactly. There's only so much room in that gray matter.
Yeah. Well,
You got to get that external hard drive, plug it in your butt.
terabyte, gigabyte,
Probably gig.
butt plug bite. Ew. Dude, sounds like you'd have to wash it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'd probably ruin the electronics.
Oh, okay. So
Dry clean.
dry clean only for your butt plug USB drive.
Just powered by heat.
Solar
And
power?
love.
The sun don't shine down there. You can't solar power that one.
That's true.
So you'd probably wear that to sleep. And so sleep.
Well, there you go with sleep. While you've got your external hard drive plugged in, does wonders for promoting things such as short-term memory. Lack of sleep can really hinder that, and over time, especially the greater sleep that is accrued, these issues are exacerbated. And with sleep, you can't just make up the debt by missing 3 nights of sleep and then sleeping 3 days after that. You can only sleep so much at a time.
Yeah, it's really crazy, man. There are so many studies done on sleep, and I think that's really thanks to all these awesome sleep institutions where people go and they put themselves in this unnatural environment where they get hooked up to like this machinery and stuff, and they have these sleep scientists who are studying or running a study, do all these measurements as these people are sleeping. And so we've learned a lot of things, and sleep deprivation in particular, we've learned a lot of things. To put it in a nutshell, it is not good. And I know that with our society as it is right now, I think that a lot of people kind of take pride in their level of exhaustion or their level of stress, daily stress. And so I've met a good deal of people who can really almost brag about how little sleep they get.
Yeah, they're burning that midnight oil, working hard, which is respectable in its own right, but probably not going to be the best thing for your health.
Exactly. It's the type of thing where you kind of have to really, really honestly evaluate what the trade-offs are and what your goal is, how you would how you would decide on what to do. I mean, if not sleeping and then needing to compensate later because your brain is so foggy and messed up due to that lack of sleep, if that's what's in the cards for you and will help you reach your goal, then by all means. But at the very least, it would benefit you if you didn't make that a habit.
Definitely not.
So prioritizing sleep is one of those things that it's just like prioritizing the gym. There's a saying, and I really like it. It's kind of come to rescue me a couple times in the night when I'm just pretty wired up. I'm not tired at all, but it's getting close to bedtime. And the saying goes, a great morning starts the night before. So do yourself a favor and get to bed on time. So I try to think of it that way, like future.
I thought it started with Jimmy Dean.
Well, that's the second part to a great morning, and the third part is Folgers, because that's the best part of waking up.
Oh, it's Folgers.
Oh shoot. Well, you know what I'm saying.
I do. And I completely agree with that saying. I personally set a non-negotiable 8 hours minimum that I must be in bed, if not sleeping, preferably sleeping. But I just, like I said, I don't feel good if I don't sleep for a good long while, at least 7 hours. I feel it, and it will hinder my next day, and it's pretty simple for me to get that sleep in, so I'm going to make it happen.
For sure. And, put simply, it's like, besides the obvious cognitive deficiencies that you would end up getting due to not sleeping enough, there are also a lot of physical things that happen and that you'd be missing out on. So the gains happen in your sleep. Anytime you're staving off a cold, trying to keep that cold or flu away, that's going to be done in your sleep. That's when your immune system's working to both repair your body and keep it nice and healthy. That's when inflammation is being tackled, and you have this really crazy stuff called cerebrospinal fluid going from your spinal cord into your brain and just flushing it around. All those things are necessary for you to function as like a normal, regular, and functional person.
Yeah, and none of that will happen if you don't sleep.
Come on. The gains
at very least. Like, I don't care if I lose my mind. I don't care if I start hallucinating, but I swear to God, if I stop seeing this bicep vein, I'm going to freak out.
I'm right there with you, man. Jeez, come on.
Yeah, think, people, think.
So, all right, well then, let's get to the next point. And
yeah, we could go on for days about each and every one of these. And if you want to talk more with us, we'll be doing a live fireside chat at the TCC November 20th, 2020.
Yeah, or you can call our chat line.
1-800-FRIENDSHIP.
Friendship.
Yeah, like the thing that goes on the water.
So the second point here for sleep.
Wait, what about friend chips? Remember when I used to ask you to go get friend chips?
Yeah, but I never found them.
Yeah, they're out there somewhere.
Maybe one day I'll find the friend chips. That's all I want, just some friendships in my life.
Salty.
I'm salty now too.
Yeah, not from that though.
No, it's something else. So this one is called Get Calm Before Bed. So getting calm before bed really mostly applies to those peeps who have a lot of difficulty falling asleep. And I can relate. That's why I wrote this point down. I know what it's like to try and fall asleep and you just lie awake forever thinking about so many different things. Your mind's going 100 miles an hour and there's no way that you can possibly get to bed. So you end up trying to read or do something, maybe watch TV. And next thing you know, it's like 1 a.m. and you still haven't slept.
And we're really, people like me at least, who may deal with trying to help somebody with a sleep issue, can really benefit from hearing a point of view like this, because I, for one, don't struggle with falling asleep. In fact, I may be borderline narcoleptic, but I'm not complaining at this point. It's really not hindered me. And that's why I say borderline. I'm not falling asleep at the wheel or anything yet. But anyway, continue, John.
All right. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for you.
Please.
We'll watch you. So this one leads into meditation more than anything, at least for me, because when it came to trying to fall asleep, again, that issue was the mind just going 100 miles a minute. And so it's been a popular thing lately. Meditation obviously has been around for a really, really long time. It's nothing new, but it is kind of new, at least in the Western world, in that science has finally, in the recent past few decades, science has really tackled meditation, and we can now understand some of the processes that go on and hormonally understand what's going on inside the body, why it's so relaxing and why it's so effective at calming stress, at lowering levels of depression with people who are clinically depressed. It has benefits as far as blood pressure go. I mean, immense benefits, that's for sure. But one of them is, of course, getting you to bed.
You know, really, if you are skeptical about something like this, honestly, what is the harm in trying?
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes.
If it works for you, then that is so much better than continuing to suffer because you don't believe in something.
Yeah. So the best time to meditate is usually in the morning. And it's really as easy as just finding a nice quiet place where you can sit in a comfortable position. I close my eyes and I set a timer for 10 minutes. I focus on breathing, deep inhale, deep exhale, and then you kind of just chill out. Your mind's going to naturally drift everywhere, and your job is just to try and focus back on your breath. And as time goes along, that 10 minutes starts to feel shorter. admittedly, it's freaking tough, man. Like sitting down in a room, quiet, doing nothing is a lot harder than it sounds.
Definitely. A lot of people are completely out of their element when forced to sit in a room like that with zero stimulus. So it can be daunting, but it's not going to kill you.
No, man. I mean, if it killed me, that'd be crazy. But it's about the most boring thing at first.
Bored to death.
Yeah, bored to death. That might be like the only time that actually happens. But in all honesty, like there are so many benefits, and the most immediate one for me was this sense of clarity when it came to my thoughts. It felt almost like as if I was able to bring a level of organization to my thoughts. So when it came to me lying down in bed at nighttime, I felt like all the loose ends had been tied. My stuff was good, taken care of and handled, and I was confident and secure in that. So I could just lay down, be freaking tired, and go to bed.
That's great.
So, ready for the last one?
I'm ready.
All right, so this one's cool. No screens at bedtime. I think we can all relate. Yeah, oh man.
But that's my TV time.
Well, nighttime might not be the right time for TV time.
What about phone time? I gotta hop on Reddit at least.
Well, how about this? How about you limit your device usage to 90 minutes before bed?
I could try that.
I think that's definitely doable. That's an hour and a half before bed.
Anybody could try that. You might as well just limit your device usage, period.
I mean, that wouldn't be terrible.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Well, for some people, that's actually asking for a lot.
What if you use all your device time for the day, but then you get lost and you can't access your map?
Ooh.
Must be overrideable.
No, I don't think so. I think it locks you out for good. At that point, you're probably just gonna have to navigate by the stars or ask the hobo down the street.
Who navigates by the stars?
Yeah. Like he'll teach you the ways of the ancient
lost
ones.
knowledge. Yep.
He's got it. Well, this one applies because we find ourselves in an interesting position here. Humans weren't really raised with not raised. Humans didn't evolve with all this technology, with all this artificial lighting. So blue light is this thing that's kind of been a hot topic in recent times. You might have heard about it a little bit and might have even seen commercial for some fancy glasses that block blue light out. Your phone has a filter that blocks blue light. So what is it with blue light? It's not a bad thing. Blue light is naturally occurring. It's like the number one source of it is actually the sun, and it helps us. It's completely necessary for us.
Some high frequency stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So it literally communicates to your brain that it's time to wake up, that it's time to be awake. We take in through filters in our eyes and even our skin, photoreceptors in our skin. We take in this light information, and it communicates to our body to produce certain hormones, and those hormones are what are keeping us awake, what are keeping us going. So blue light is totally necessary. It's not necessary at night. Actually, it can be harmful at night. That's when it's a problem, because at night, naturally, we wouldn't have this issue of blue light. We would have darkness, we'd have the moon, we'd probably have some fire going on. So we have all this artificial light surrounding us, and really what it's doing is it's telling our brains constantly to produce those hormones that keep us awake. And what that does is when nighttime rolls around and it's time to produce hormones to make you fall asleep, that's melatonin, if you don't know that, then your brain's not going to produce that melatonin. It's being stimulated constantly by all this blue coming in, and never gets around to knowing that it's nighttime. And so that's why people nowadays are taking melatonin supplements almost the same way that people take vitamin D. So people take vitamin D supplements because they have a lack of sun exposure. Well, nowadays, I think people are taking melatonin supplements because they have an abundance of blue light exposure.
And that is in no way, shape, or form a fix for the underlying issue of why you're not sleeping. In fact, it'll probably just end up becoming a money pit for you because you develop a tolerance to it, much as you would any other substance, and it will stop having the same effectiveness after a while.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think, based off of the information that I've read on melatonin, it's like minimally effective, if effective at all. That
Placebo,
a lot of it,
maybe.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it happens to be that placebo. So that's kind of on you. So if you've tried melatonin in the past and it has worked, well, I know how tricky it can be to fall asleep. So if it's worked, have at it. But just understand that there's a deeper solution to your problem here. And melatonin is a great step in the right direction. If you were to solve that issue of the blue light by maybe buying some blue light blocking glasses or shutting your devices off like an hour and a half before bed.
Most devices also have the option to turn the blue light off of them, which you can set. It's like night mode or whatever.
Yeah, dude, that's so necessary. But I still wear these glasses that make it look like I'm about to go build a birdhouse because they wrap around my face and they're super orange. They block out all blue light, and I put them on as soon as the sun goes down because at this point, like, my brain and my eyes are so accustomed to it that I get headaches if I don't wear it at night. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wear prescription glasses, and I took a orange highlighter and I just scribbled on my lenses because I'm tired of that blue stuff.
There you go, man. You're so resourceful.
Okay, Tony Romo.
Damn. Well, I think that leaves us with one last pillar.
And unfortunately, due to our lack of time, looks like we're going to have to save this last pillar for episode 3.
All right, episode 3 it is. I'd like to say thanks to everybody, and you can check us out on our Instagram and our Facebook. That's where we most frequent. So if you have any questions or if you want to send any kind of feedback, let's get talking.
I also have an apology I need to make regarding the fire alarm in the last video. That was my girlfriend who is just trying to keep us safe. It'll never happen again.
Safety is important.
It is. But like John said, we really appreciate anyone who has checked us out, and even more so if you had any feedback for us. The feedback that we received in the first week since releasing episode 1 has been far greater than what either of us expected, and it makes this a lot more enjoyable. Even it wasn't not enjoyable to begin with, but it puts a lot more motivation to be consistent with this and continue to put out some hopefully helpful information for you guys.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part, is just trying to hook people up with some nuggets of knowledge that'll hopefully translate over to like being awesome.
Yeah, being a better person. That should always be the goal.
There you go. Well, thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time.